Alright, today I'll be talking about the House of Wessex. Now, when we talk about Heptarchy, we talk about each kingdom which came into prominence, and after the rise and fall of Mercia, it is actually King Egbert of Wessex, who defeats Mercia in the Battle of Elendune in 825 AD. So now Mercia surrenders, and along with her, her vassal kingdoms of Kent, Sussex, and Northumbria to succumb to Egbert of Wessex. So now Wessex becomes the chief kingdom of Heptarchy, and you find the House of Wessex is what comes next. Now, when we talk about the House of Wessex, you find the most illustrious king is King Egbert. Now, we also know about King Egbert because he is the one to inflict a crushing blow on the Danes in the Battle of Hengistdown. Now, the Battle of Hengistdown takes place in 836 AD. And you realize that in 825 AD, Egbert he sends his son Aethelwulf to invade the Mercian sub-kingdom of Kent, and its sub-king at that point is Walred, and Walred he was driven out shortly afterwards. And in 830 AD, you find Essex, Sussex, and Surrey had already submitted to Egbert, and now he now appoints his son Aethelwulf to rule the southeastern territories as king of Kent. Now in 838, Aethelwulf he is victorious over the alliance of Cornishmen as well as the Vikings at the Battle of Hengistdown. Now, and he reduces Cornwall to a status of a client kingdom. So now, when Aethelwulf he succeeds to the throne, that is after Egbert, when he succeeds to the throne, he appoints his eldest son. He appoints his eldest son, that is Aethelstan, as the sub king of Kent. Now, when Aethelwulf he dies in 858, now he is succeeded after his death. It is Ethelbald. It is Ethelbald who succeeds him because he is the oldest surviving son. And Ethelbald he survives and he becomes the next king. So after Aethelwulf, Ethelbald becomes the king of Wessex, and he does not rule for long. He rules around for like 5 years, and you find that after Ethelbald, it is Ethelbert. Again, he's another son of Aethelwulf. It is Ethelbert who becomes the king of Wessex. And you realize that Ethelbert only survived his father by like 2 years, and Ethelbert then becomes the ruler. And you find that it is the first time there is a union of Wessex. It is under Ethelbert, king of Wessex, that Wessex and Kent it is united under a single king. And after Ethelbert, it is Ethelred who becomes the king of Wessex. And now it becomes really interesting because it is Ethelred who defeats the Danes in the Battle of Ashdown. You find that the serious conquest of the Danes it kind of begins in 851 AD, and as you can see, the Danes had started invading, and it is very difficult to defend the coastline because the Danish army, the Vikings, they were quite unpredictable and they could attack from any point because it is very difficult to protect or guard the really vast coastline. And you find that a large Danish army had come to East Anglia in the autumn of 865, and King Edmund, of course, was killed in 869. So now many battles were fought, and throughout you find they want to capture Wessex. There were a lot of battles which were fought, including one that actually led to the defeat of the Danish army, and that is, you can see over here, Ashdown in 871. So now it is Alfred the Great, again the son of Aethelwulf, who succeeds to the throne, and that is after the death of, yes, it is after the death of Ethelred that King Alfred becomes the king. And of course, uh, he drives out the Danes, and he's able to force the Danes to leave Wessex in 877. But a Viking attack in the winter of 878 came really near to conquering Wessex. And you realize that Alfred, he was never meant to become a king. He was a scholar, and he only wanted to study. Now he was very realistic in his ambitions, and he realized that he had to defeat the Danes, who had actually penetrated deep into the heart of Wessex. And this realization that the Danes were an insurmountable force was proven when the Danes captured Wareham in Dorset, and that happens in 876 AD. So now Alfred and a few of his followers, they escape into, I would say, the forests of, or the marshland of, Somerset. And as they are driven to Somerset, the marshland kind of becomes their refuge, and they make the little village of Athelney their headquarters. Now Alfred and his men, they wait in the marshes of Somerset, and they wait for the right opportunity. And very slowly, Alfred, he begins to gather his army. And it is in May 878 you find Alfred's army, which is made up of very determined, confident, soldiers. They were ready to fight against the Danes, and they are no match for the Danes. Now, King Guthrum of Danes, they concede defeat in the Battle of Ethandune, and a peace treaty was made because there was absolutely no way that King Guthrum could manage to escape from the clutches. It is very difficult. The conditions in the battlefield were also not conducive, so he gives up, he surrenders, and after the defeat at the Battle of Ethandune, a peace was made by the Treaty of Wedmore in 878. Now, after the Treaty of Wedmore, the whole of England, it's divided between Danes and Saxons. So the land under the Danes began to be called Danelaw, and in accordance to the Treaty of Wedmore, you find the Danes had become, quite, I would say, passive. Guthrum was, forced to convert to Christianity, so that bloodlust of, the Danes, it kind of subsided, and they turned all that energy into something very positive. That is, they picked up occupation, and they focused on agriculture. So you find it is only with the arrival of Alfred the Great that the Danes, were delivered a crushing blow.